Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365 with your daily update for Friday. It's Friday, February 26th. Sorry, a little bit late today because I've been working on a couple of when it rains, it pours, folks. I've got like three kind of big investigative things happening right now. So that's kind of taking up a lot of my day, and I'm sorry that there's not a lot to say about those things yet. Look for some really fun, interesting, potentially kind of big stories next week. But today, the one sort of troubling investigation that I have collaborated on with some friends is you might have seen a press release earlier today or some news stories about a map that the state DHS has launched that tells you where to get your vaccine. And the idea being that all these blue dots here, are places where you can go for any eligible group, which is basically anybody over 65 or anybody in that like 1A tier, and starting Monday, teachers. And then the yellow ones are only specific groups, and then the red ones are currently closed and targeting patients. Well, I clicked Mount Horeb where I live just to see. You'll note that every other news outlet in this town, and I don't want to criticize. I hate to criticize my colleagues in the other news outlets, but check, you guys, just check. They just published the link to this thing, and I actually checked it, and I clicked Mount Horeb, and what I saw made me laugh. It says the Mount Horeb Area School District office is issuing vaccines. That didn't seem right. If that was the case, if the Mount Horeb Area School District had vaccines, they would be vaccinating teachers, and I would have heard about it because I have kids in the district. So I took a walk, and I stopped by, and they looked at me like, "What? No, we don't have vaccine." They were like, "We're trying to get some. We're hoping to get some in next week to vaccinate some teachers. But no, you can't just walk off the street and if you're over 65 and get a vaccine here." So I put out the bat signal, and which in this day and age means I created a Facebook Messenger group with some other reporter friends of mine, independent online news reporters that I know from Racine County and from Marathon County and from Portage County. And I said, "Can you guys just look at this map and make a couple calls and tell me?" And over the course of about an hour, it's a small sample, but of 14 places that were listed on the map as having vaccine available, only 8 actually said yes. So that's a little over half. So we're still, my colleagues around the state are still making calls. I have an email into DHS to ask, like, what the heck, guys? What's happening? Where did you get this data? And why is it so wrong? So if that sample holds up, and like there's a couple hundred, looks like there's a couple hundred places listed there. Well, in each of those dots, by the way, is several actual locations. Like if you click on the Mount Horeb dot, there's 3 places, and I would assume that lots of those other dots have 2 or 3 places listed. Now, in Mount Horeb, for example, 2 of the 3, one was a Mount Horeb pharmacy, the other was a local Walgreens, did say you do actually have vaccines available. But in Marathon County, only 6 out of 12. In Racine County, so far, 3 out of 3. So like it's really inconsistent. But still, if statewide, if half that information is wrong, that's bad news. You're sending people to this resource to find where to get their vaccines, and it's not there. So the upshot is, for now, don't rely on that map. Rely on your local county health department, on your local healthcare provider. Walgreens are apparently getting vaccines directly from the federal government. So check your local Walgreens. It looks like it's very difficult to get an appointment online at Walgreens because they're booked. They only take online appointments up 3 days out, and they're all full for 3 days out, so you can't get an appointment online. So I don't know if you can walk into a Walgreens and get an appointment. I would hope so. But you might have seen a link to this DHS map. Don't use it. It's wrong. And I'm hoping that us asking the question will help them fix it. Like, I don't want to do the job for them. I'm not going to fix it for them. But I hope it prompts them to reevaluate the data and get it right. So I hope that's helpful to you. Let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus numbers for today, which, to be honest with you, I have had very little time to even think about today because of everything else happening. But the numbers today look actually pretty good. That weird 1 day 54,000 test thing that we talked about yesterday seems to have seems to have been a 1 day thing. Like, there was just a backlog of data somewhere that 54,000 negative tests got processed in 1 day on Tuesday, and now we're back to kind of normal. So we have about 5,500 new results today, probably about 30,000 actual tests, but of those, 5,500 were either the first negative test or the first positive test. 656 of those were positive. So that's a lower number than the last couple of days, which is good. The very good news is the 7-day positive test rate is down to 2.3. So that continues to go down. It's been going down for weeks. Finally got below 2, got all the way to 2.6, then it went up to 2.8, and I went, don't panic. A little concerned, but don't panic. And then in the 1 day, and then it's gone down since 2.4 yesterday and 2.3 today. So that's great news. Doesn't mean it's over. Doesn't mean we relax. Doesn't mean we throw away our masks. It means what we're doing is working. So let's keep doing it. Right? Let's not let our guard down. We are now down to the numbers that we saw back in June. And we saw what happened after June. Once we relaxed in July, things went up. Let's not do that again. Yesterday, I remember we reported 52 deaths and 32 of them from Jefferson County, which were going all the way back to like October. So today we only report 5 fatalities. So that was, again, a 1 day sort of catch up on reporting deaths. So now we report only 5. Only 5. Like, that's still 5 people who are lost to this thing. That puts our total death toll at 6,399. So in all likelihood, we'll pass 6,400 deaths tomorrow. Our number of active cases is down to 8,200. It was 8,400 for the last couple of days, so that's good. That continues to go down. Now, despite the hiccups in the vaccination rollout, we're still vaccinating a lot of people, right? Despite the information problems and lack of supply, we still had more than 31,000 people get their second shot in just the past 24 hours. So that's good. We're at 7.6% now of the adult population is fully vaccinated, which is great. And another 26,000 people got their first shot yesterday. So again, not only is that a good number, those numbers, those day-to-day people getting their vaccinations done are getting bigger every day. So not only is a lot of people getting vaccinated, but there's more, and it's accelerating. So there are problems with the distribution of the vaccine. We know that. There are supply problems. There are problems of prioritization. We know that. We know that PHMDC was going to vaccinate teachers next week, and they can't do that now because they're not getting the supply. Yet SSM Health, which is a private healthcare provider that's not part of the county consortium, is going to vaccinate teachers in Wanakee and Sun Prairie starting next week. So there's some, like, how does that happen? There's some inequity happening, and so it's not perfect. And you might even say it's not going very well, but the numbers are okay. Like, statewide, statewide, we've got 440,000 people fully vaccinated now. So it's a start, trying to see the bright side here. Emily, you are quite right. We talked about this the other day. Maybe it was last week. Was it last week that we talked about this? Maybe it was Monday. We talked about it on the podcast. I know it's only 10 minutes podcast one day this week. You are absolutely right. Other states have done this. Basically, states decide on their priorities, right? And this is an equity problem that people with chronic or other kinds of comorbidities or potential comorbidities are not prioritized. It's purely age-based. But here's the problem. Here's why that's a racial problem, first of all. Life expectancy for Black and brown people is shorter. So if you're a 65-year-old white person, might be just as vulnerable as a 55-year-old Black person. So when you cut it off at 65, you're automatically, it's not a racist intent, but it's a racist impact. Not only that, but there are lots of people, as Emily mentions, who are 30 and white and Black and brown and Latino and American Indian who are diabetic, who have had cancer, who have had chemotherapy, who have other immune suppression issues, who are just as vulnerable as people who are otherwise healthy but over 65. The state of Wisconsin has made the decision to keep it simple and just make 65 and up that's the vulnerable population we're going to get first. Other states have made different decisions. Other states have decided to make health condition part of the priority. I don't know how to do it logistically. Like, how do you prioritize within health problems? Do you do a doctor's note, that kind of thing? I don't know how they've done it in other states, but other states have done it, and I understand the frustration of people who are who might have those kind of issues and can't get vaccinated. Now, the other thing I will say is the faster we just get everybody vaccinated, the faster we can all get vaccinated, right? Once we finish all the people over 65, then the rest of us can get in line. Like, I will be definitely dead last. I hope. Most privileged people to the back of the line, please. That's my feeling on it. See, this is what I'm talking about. That's a vulnerable person. That person should be vaccinated. Okay. So, what else do we have? Oh, the other thing to mention is that we were told on February 18th that the state had genetically sequenced 6,339 samples of coronavirus, and 6 of those were variant B117, the so-called UK variant. 0 were B1351, which is the South Africa variant, and 0 were variant P1, which is the Brazil variant. That's relatively low. That's like a 0.1% are that UK variant, which everybody's worried about because it's more contagious. We were told that every Thursday that number would be updated. It is now Friday. They have not updated the number. So I don't know what to tell you beyond that. So that is all I have for you on coronavirus today. Again, don't bother with that map. I will let you know tomorrow if they fix it. I hope they fix it. But for now, call your local provider, find out what the vaccine situation is for you. When we come back, I'll be joined by Sheila Milton, who's the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at EW Credit Union. They have a very cool idea happening where they're basically investing $1.5 million specifically with nonprofit organizations that work on racial equity. So she's going to tell us a little bit about how, if you have one of those organizations that has some of that need, how you can get involved. Stephanie, thank you, Stephanie. They have updated the data. They just didn't look for any more variants. So never mind. They just haven't sequenced. I'm not sure if that's better or worse. that they just have decided not to do any more sequencing. Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie does all of our data for us, as you know, and is my co-host. It's only 10 minutes. All right. After this, I'll be joined by Sheila Milton, and then we'll have some more news. Stay with us. Do not scroll away. And we're back, and joining the program this afternoon is Sheila Milton, who's the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at University of Wisconsin Credit Union. Sorry, UW Credit Union, right? And she's here to talk about something that was announced last week, and this is a $1.5 million fund to specifically address racial disparities in both Madison area and in Milwaukee. Sheila, thanks for joining us, and can you tell us a little bit about that investment?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I think the pandemics, it's brought increased attention to the racial disparities and just everything that exists in our community. And we really wanted to do something. We wanted to do it now versus waiting. And so we've made a $1.5 million investment. We've partnered with United Way of Dane County and United Way of Milwaukee and Greater Waukesha County to be kind of to hold the funds. And we're partnering with them to get the money out to the community as quickly as possible. So we have an emergency grant component, and then we have kind of an RFP component that is really linked to accessing educational opportunities and economic mobility and financial capability or stability.
Right. And so is this intended primarily for like nonprofits on the ground that are doing the work, or is this individuals and families and that kind of thing, or who can access these funds and how do they do it?
Yeah, it's for 501Cs, and they can access it. So we announced it last week, and the application goes live March 17th. Okay. And so they would be able to access it through either UW Credit Union's website or through United Way's website. And there's a short quiz that they would complete because we don't want to waste people's time. So there's a short quiz to see if they're eligible, and then a short application process. So we've really taken this opportunity to use an equity lens and shorten the application process as well.
Talk a little bit more about that equity lens. How is the equity lens translate to shorter application process?
Yeah, well, I think part of what we're doing is, usually when you give money, you're the one in the driver's seat to determine like what organizations get the money. But in this situation, we are forming a community advisory committee, and we feel like the community knows best and they know the needs, and we want to provide this as a growth opportunity for those that are aware of the needs in the community. So that is one thing that we're doing that we believe is an equity approach. And the other thing is the shorter application process. We know that some larger nonprofits, they may have grant writers and all of that, and we want to make sure that it's not an intimidating process, that people that need the money will click on the application and feel like they can complete it.
And complete it quickly without a lot of hoops, right?
Exactly.
And what size grants are you looking to fund?
Yeah, so for the RFP, we're funding. I would say individual grants are going to be anywhere from $25,000 for 1 year, $50,000 for 2 years, and then if you collaborate with 3 or more organizations, that would be $100,000 up to $200,000. Okay. The emergency grants, it's going to probably be right around that $10,000 range for both locations, potentially a little bit higher. We're in talks to see if there's an opportunity to have grants go from 2,000 all the way up to potentially a little bit higher than 10,000.
And those emergency grants are for like immediate needs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think part of it is we know people need money right now, so we wanted to be able to have people apply and then get back to them in about 2 weeks. And so that's the process, is that when they complete these emergency grants, we're hoping to get back to them pretty quickly because we know the need is great and they need the money yesterday.
Right. You alluded to this earlier, but the fact that this is specifically about racial disparities, but it's also in this pandemic context, and those two things were so conflated over the course of 2020, right?
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that and how the one leads to the other, or how those two big things are related in your mind and in the minds of the credit union to do this funding?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the pandemic, it just brought increased attention to like the racial disparities that exist in our communities. And, you know, communities of color are often hit hardest when it comes to this. And so I think this is really just an extension of who UW Credit Union is. We're about helping people, and we're passionate about that. And I think that this is something that matters to our members and to our employees. And so when I think about getting the money out for the emergency fund, we know that there's still a need out there. And so we want to make sure that we get those dollars, but we also know that there's these racial inequities that are going to take time and effort to address. And so that's what the greater funds are for. And in addition to us giving money, we're not just giving money. We want to also partner with the organizations through either our volunteer program or do financial education, because we know that we want to be there to support them in more ways than just kind of this financial contribution.
So you're looking to not only write a check, but also provide some support and to help whatever it is they're going to do with that money, actually provide support and help and move those projects forward.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. So the application goes live March 17th. We will post a reminder on the website that if you're a 501c3 nonprofit in either Madison area or Milwaukee area, watch for that March 17th. Sheila Milton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Where'd it go? Oh, sorry about that. Okay. There we go. Thank you to Sheila Milton for joining us. That is very cool thing. So what else we have today? We have this here. Let me see if I can get this. Where to go? There it is. That is George Jewett, who is the first Black football player in the Big Ten. And he played for Michigan from 1890 to 1892. And then transferred to Northwestern in 1893 and finished played 2 seasons there, halfback and fullback, back in the days when halfbacks and fullbacks were the whole thing. Like wasn't much in the way of forward passing. But he finished his medical degree there in Northwestern. So in his honor, Michigan and Northwestern will now have a rivalry trophy between them, and it'll be called the George Jewett Trophy. So whoever wins every year between Michigan and Northwestern will win the George Jewett Trophy, honoring George Jewett, who became the first Black player in the Big Ten, which is very cool. In other news today, this is Reverend Marcus Allen. He's the president of the African American Council of Churches here in Madison and the pastor at Mount Zion Baptist Church. He just announced today that Mount Zion is putting together its own stimulus package. Right, they've put together $25,000 out of their own funds as well as donated funds, and they're giving away basically $500 grants, stimulus payments for people who need it. Understanding that we're all waiting for federal stimulus. We're all a year into this thing. People are still having a hard time, right? So this is different than the Psalm 46 fund, which is something that this church did earlier, where they would pay a bill for you and that kind of thing. This is just money, cash money. Here's $500 if you need it. They're trying to give away 50 of those to $500 each to 50 people, and they've already done like 10. So there's a story on that on the website. If there's an application there if you are in need. And finally, say the Urban League of Greater Madison and American Family Insurance have announced a $400,000 investment in the south side of Madison. And let me tell you for sure, I got to get this correct here. The American Family Insurance Institute for Corporate and Social Impact. And you might be aware, if you're in Madison or on the south side, that there's a south side business hub being created on Park Street. And this is largely under the auspices of the Urban League. And the county has put in a couple $1 million. Some other businesses, American Family has put in a little bit before. And this is basically kind of the next step in that. And it's going to be $150,000 for staff and to design and staff this new program. But then $250,000 to seed a loan fund. That's not going to be the whole loan fund. That's the seed money for the loan fund, where they'll be loaning $20,000 on average. So small business loans, averaging $20,000. That's not the limit. That's going to be the average. But they're going to be low interest and no collateral. The idea being it's Black and brown people just have consistently less access to capital. We know this. This is not controvertible. This is the truth. That Black and brown people have less access to banks, are less successful in getting small business loans from banks, from traditional banks. So this is a loan you can get. That's why most Black-owned businesses are self-funded. And there's a limit to that, right? So this is an idea that you can take a loan to start a business on the south side of Madison and not lose your house over it, right? Not risk your house or your retirement or your collateral. There's no collateral on these loans. So again, this is under the auspices of the Urban League of Greater Madison. They're hoping to grow the fund up to $1 million by June 30th. So they're not open yet. They're not taking applications yet, but they will be soon. So they're just announcing that this is happening. So if you're on the south side, if your business open, if your business or want to start a business, keep an eye on this. This could be a real important resource for you. All right, that is all I have for you today. It's kind of been feels like I've been a little long-winded today, so appreciate you sticking with me. I will be back on Monday. I'll be working a lot this weekend on these couple of stories that I'll be able to share with you early next week, I hope. Until I see you again, have a wonderful weekend. It's going to be beautiful. Get outside if you can. If you go inside somewhere, put your mask on. Let's keep the numbers where they are. All right, we're all in this together. We got to do it together, just as we have been for the last year. So we're still in it. Appreciate you being with me. Have a great weekend.
This is 365 Media.